Have you ever been in the middle of checking in a guest into your hotel? You open up the reservation screen to find out who is paying for the reservation, and then your mind just goes blank. My name is Roberto, and I am here to provide you with guides to simplify processes, to support your learning, and to give you a head start in front office. How many times have you opened up a reservation screen and you just can't seem to understand who is paying for the reservation? Maybe you started to build up confidence and the reservation screens are starting to look familiar, and then something you've never seen before. You are scanning the reservation screen trying to look for any clues that might be able to help you. And now you're starting to click away, trying to look like you know what you're doing, but your guest is still waiting. Then you get to a point where you have to politely ask your guest if they wouldn't mind waiting for a couple of moments so that you can go and quickly ask one of your colleagues or one of your supervisors if they would be able to help you. But now they are with their own guests, and now you don't know whether to interrupt them so that you can ask them for help, or whether you would just wait until they're finished with their conversation and then get them to come over to your station to help you. But whilst this is all still happening, your guest is still waiting. Like, what do I do? If you feel like your guest has been waiting too long, you could be brave and make an educated guess on what you believe is the solution and continue with the check-in process anyway. Personally, I wouldn't recommend that, and if you are going to go and ask one of your colleagues to come and help you, just wait until they are finished with their own guest. That way, when they do come to your station and help you, they have their full attention towards helping your reservation. Well, I have a solution for you, which hopefully means that you are never in these awkward situations. In my current and previous teams, we have always used front office payment codes. Now, not everyone needs to use these codes. Some people can open up a reservation screen and they'll just know straight away who is paying for the reservation. But for those who are newer to the team, or if you get someone that helps your department from a different department, they will rely heavily on these codes. Before I explain what these codes are, I do need to tell you that behind all of these codes, there is so much information that you don't really need to know about, because the question here is, who is paying for the reservation? So there's going to be information like travel agents, companies, third-party authorization forms. There's too much. On this channel, we're all about simplifying processes to support your learning and to give you a head start. So in this case, being able to check in a guest successfully. All of the ins and outs and the intricate details of the reservation we can learn about later. For now, we just want to know who is paying for the reservation. I have 10 codes that I want to share with you guys. 5 of these codes are what is going to be paid for in their reservation, and the other 5 is how is it going to be paid for. With your 5 codes of what and 5 codes of how, you can use any combination of them all, and it will give you a detailed description of what is being paid for and who is paying for the reservation. So first of all, let's talk about the what codes. What is going to be paid for in the guest's reservation? So we have RO, which stands for room only, BB, which stands for bed and breakfast, DIN, din, which stands for dinner, LUN, lun, which stands for lunch, and DBB, which stands for dinner, bed and breakfast. So these 5 codes would be the beginning of your full front office payment code. Next, we move into how the reservation is going to be paid for. So first of all, we have POA. Now, if you watch my previous video, this code might look familiar to you. This stands for Pay Own Account, meaning that the guest is paying for the reservation themselves. The next one is POE. Now, this stands for Pay Own Extras. So this might mean that the guest has already paid for their room or they're paid for their bed and breakfast, and they only need to pay for anything extra that they have at your hotel. The next one would be CC or VC. So CC would stand for credit card and VC would stand for virtual card. I'm going to go into this in a moment. Next we have PM or MF. Now these stand for Paymaster or Master Folio. Again, in a moment I will go through this code in more detail. And then lastly we have CL or DB. Now these stand for City Ledger or Direct Bill. Again, I will go through this later. So these codes might seem a little bit confusing, but wait, we haven't simplified them yet. So let's go back to the top and let's talk about the code POA, which is Pay Own Account. Now I know that this is quite self-explanatory already, but I want to give you an example of when you would use this code. So let's imagine I want to book a hotel tomorrow by the seaside. So I'd go online and I'd find the hotel that I would want. I would fill up all of my details, including my credit card details, so that I would guarantee the booking. And then I will receive a confirmation email and my booking is now in the system. So I haven't paid for the reservation yet. I know that I will have to pay for the reservation when I arrive at the hotel. So in this case, the code POA would be best suitable. So let's talk about POE, Pay Own Extras. I have a really good example to share with you guys that would best describe when you would use this code. Have you ever noticed that when you make a hotel reservation that there are so many options that you can choose from? The two main ones are an advance purchase booking and a flexible booking. So we're going to be talking about the advance purchase booking. When you make this reservation, you are allowing the company who you have booked your hotel with, you are allowing them to take the total amount of your reservation from your account. So in effect, you're paying for your reservation once you confirm it online. So let's say that hotel by the seaside that I've booked that room and I selected an advance purchase booking, it would mean that I've paid for the reservation already. So when I arrive at the hotel, they would know that I've paid for the booking and that I only need to pay for my extras whilst I'm at the hotel. So just to clarify, extras meaning anything that I haven't already paid for. So in that booking that I have, let's say I paid for my bed and breakfast. So only my bed and breakfast has been paid for. So if I wanted to have dinner, and because I'll be driving, so I'll need to pay for parking, those will count as my extras, my dinner and my car parking. So next we are going to talk about CC and VC, credit card or virtual card. Now if you are going to be using the front office payment codes, you're going to be using the CC or VC code quite a lot. So I'm going to take my time with explaining this to you. The reason why you're going to use this code a lot is because we get a load of bookings come from companies like Booking.com or Expedia. Now for conversation's sake, let's say we have made a reservation via Expedia. So if we pick an advance purchase booking on Expedia's website, we are agreeing that we're going to pay for the reservation once we hit confirm on Expedia's website. Now the money that's going to come out of my account doesn't go to the hotel that you've booked, it actually goes to Expedia. Then what happens is the hotel will charge Expedia and that's how the hotel gets their money for the reservation. The way that the hotel gets their money is that Expedia would give the hotel a virtual credit card. Now with virtual credit cards, you can only use them one time. And they are preloaded with a certain amount of money on there, which means that the hotel is unable to charge more than what they are supposed to. So now that you have a bit of a background of what VC means, ultimately what this means in a reservation is that the reservation is going to be charged to a credit card or a virtual card. So now we move on to PM or MF, Paymaster or Master Folio. Now depending on what system you're using, it might be called something else. So just create a 2-letter abbreviation to whatever the equivalent is that you use with your system. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to use PM, Paymaster, because that is what I currently use. So let's say that you have a large group of reservations coming to your hotel all under one reservation. For example, a tour group. So the company would be paying for all of these rooms. So rather than paying for each individual reservation one by one, you would move all of the charges to one invoice, which in this case would be the paymaster. So I'm going to show you an example here. Imagine you have 10 rooms and each room costs £100. So instead of charging £100 10 times, you would move it all to one invoice, which in this case is called the paymaster. So the total amount would be £1,000, and then that's when you would charge the company, all together rather than individually. Usually when I see the code PM, most of the time it is going to be a group booking, meaning that there's going to be more than one reservation and all of their reservations are going to move to one invoice, the paymaster. So lastly, we have CL or DB, City Ledger or Direct Bill. Again, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use City Ledger because that is what I currently use. So let's say, for example, I work for a company and that company is Adidas. And Adidas have said to me that they need me to go to New York and they're going to pay for my hotel stay. So they would contact a hotel in New York, let's say the Holiday Inn. Now when Adidas make the reservation with Holiday Inn New York, there will be two options of how Adidas are going to pay for it. Adidas could either give Holiday Inn New York a credit card to pay for my reservation, or Adidas could say to Holiday Inn New York that once Roberto has stayed, then I'm going to have an invoice for my stay and that they're going to give that invoice back to Adidas and then Adidas will pay the amount on the invoice. Now City Ledger can be something quite complicated to explain, specifically for those that are quite new to reception. So the best way that I can describe it to you would be if you see City Ledger or Direct Bill, it just means that the company is paying for the reservation. I know that some of you will want to know what a City Ledger is right now. I'll be happy to explain it to you. Just drop me an email down here below and let's start a conversation. Otherwise, subscribe to my new channel and I'll be releasing a video in the future about what a City Ledger actually means. Now you have all of the codes and I'm going to show it on screen for you right now. Again, if you would like a printable copy, drop me an email and I'll happily share it with you. If you don't have these codes in place and it's something that you want to start using, then I'd recommend that you speak to someone responsible in your department and ask them if it's something that they can incorporate. Any supervisors out there watching, or assistant managers, or even front office managers, I plead with you that you use these front office payment codes or something similar. I can guarantee you from my own personal experience that if you do use front office payment codes, your team would be forever thankful. If you do use them, you will simplify so much information and you will support your team's learning and give them a head start in front office so that they can focus on other things like guest service. Okay guys, so I'm going to give you 3 examples of how you would use these codes together. Okay, so the first one would be, let's imagine that I've made my reservation on Expedia and I've opted in for the advanced purchase booking, meaning I would like to pay for my reservation right now. And I want to include breakfast onto it as well. So as I arrive at the hotel and my reservation screen is opened up, you should see on there BB to VC /POE. So my bed and breakfast has already been paid for to Expedia. The hotel is going to charge Expedia's virtual card to get the money. And then anything extra that I want on top of breakfast, I'm going to have to pay for it myself. Next up, let's say that I work for a company and let that company be Adidas. And Adidas have booked a hotel stay for me, but they're only paying for my room. So you should see when you open up the reservation screen, RO to CL /POE. So my room is paid for, but anything else on top of that, so if I did want to have breakfast, I will have to pay for that myself. And lastly, let's say that I've been unfortunate enough that my flight has been cancelled at the airport. So the airline that I have booked with is going to organise accommodation for me because I won't have another flight until tomorrow evening. So the airline are going to pay for my dinner for this evening, my breakfast for tomorrow, and then my lunch for tomorrow as well because of my flight being in the evening. So when I arrive at the hotel, on the reservation screen, it should show as DBB plus LUN to PM/POE. So for myself and others that have been affected by the flight, we have our meal for this evening plus our meals for tomorrow covered by the airline, and anything extra that we're going to have on top of that, we're going to have to pay for ourselves. To use the cliche phrase, practice makes perfect, I'm glad to say that with using these codes, after a day of being familiar with them, you'll get used to them pretty quickly. Now, I'm not sure if you remember one of my big tips that I had from the 5 basic steps for check-in video. That would be, in order to get familiar with using the codes, open up your arrivals for the day and go through them one by one. Now, instead of putting down what you believe who is paying for the reservation, you can now start using these codes. Again, once you have your list, give that to a more experienced colleague of yours and they can go through it and they will let you know whether you are right or wrong. Eventually you'll get a score and then keep on scoring yourself every day until you know who is paying for the reservation. If for whatever reason you are unable to use codes, perhaps your system won't allow you to manually type information on the reservation screen, then I would recommend that you open up an Excel sheet and you actually write down the codes for each reservation. Make sure you have that checked by a colleague of yours so that you know that it's correct, and if you do get stuck whilst you are checking in a guest, then at least you have your Excel sheet to refer back to so that it can remind you who is paying for the reservation. Now, the only thing on top of this is, once you have done your list, perhaps there'll be another guest that makes a reservation 5 minutes after you've saved your list. So just keep an eye out on any additional reservations you get once you have done your list. Comment down below on how you keep your reservations organised so that people who are newer to reception know who is paying for the reservation. I'd love to hear about it, and perhaps I'll even learn something new that I could use in my team currently. So guys, there you have it. 10 front office payment codes to simplify processes, to support your learning, and to give you a head start in front office. Remember, it's perfectly okay to make mistakes. In fact, I encourage you to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. Until next time.